All right, so since I've been away, the Yankees did not sign Yamamoto. And the Tuesday before he signed, I think that was the first week that I was off, I had heard that they were on the 1 yard line with him.
Okay.
So that's how close it was. Then you got a sense that by Thursday, when we did a hot stove show on Yes, that it was starting to slip away. And he ends up signing with the Dodgers. Surprising on a couple of levels that he would want to share the spotlight with Ohtani. But Ohtani taking just $2 million a year and deferring $68 million a year for the next 10 years after, the 10-year deal, that's what set them up to be able to get Glasnow and to get Yamamoto. But then I hear all these different things. Well, the Yankees made him an offer, which, by the way, was worth more per year than the Dodger offer. But he ended up signing a deal with the Dodgers that was valued at $325 million. And then I keep hearing, well, the Yankees were intent on not having him make more than Garrett Cole. Well, I don't know the validity of that, but there's a couple of things that don't fit. Number one is this, Don, at the end of this coming season, the 2024 season, Garrett Cole can opt out. And all the Yankees have to do is add another year to his contract at $36 million, and he has to stay. He can't become a free agent.
Right.
So that would mean that the $324 million contract that he signed would now be worth $360 million over 10 years.
Right.
So that would be worth more than what Yamamoto got from the Dodgers. I would think that's a very odd line for the Yankees to draw. Like, we don't want him to make more than Cole. And he wouldn't have been making more per year than Cole. It just would have been total value of the deal.
Right.
And then it would have been, Cole would have surpassed him when they had the $36 million. But here's the problem that I'm thinking about. If that's the way you are doing business, and listen, I even brought it up at the time when the negotiations were going on, people said I was an idiot, that the Cole contract would be a little mark for them that they might not want to cross. If you don't want to pass Cole, then you're not signing Soto, because you're not going to pass Judge, right? It's okay to pass Judge, but it's not okay to pass Cole? Judge is your captain, $360 million, 9-year deal.
Right. Well,
so you can't sign Soto then. And one other thing I'll say, and I'm sorry, I'm going on.
Please.
The Yankees were rational about Yamamoto. Everything I've heard about Yamamoto, he's going to be great. And he's been great in Japan. But I've always said this about free agency. If you're going to be rational, you're always going to finish third. You're never going to get the guy. You're never going to get the guy. Was it rational for the Yankees to give Aaron Judge 9 years? No. But they know they had to get the guy, so they went against rational thought. It wasn't rational to give Cole 9 years, but they did it, and it's worked out. If you're going to be rational, you're always going to finish second or third. But if you hold firm, we're not going to pass Cole, then that means you're not going to pass Judge, and that means you got Soto for 1 year.
Now, I do think there's a difference between surpassing Judge as opposed to surpassing Cole for Yamamoto and Soto. Soto is an established major leaguer. All right, he's an all-star. He's won 4 Silver Sluggers. He's got a World Series. He's got a batting title. He's an established major league player. That you could make the case, because he's younger, that over the length of the contract could be as good a player as Aaron Judge. It's possible. Yamamoto hasn't done a thing. He's never pitched in the major leagues before. Garrett Cole's coming off a Cy Young. Garrett Cole has been an established, great pitcher in this league for a long time. It's a little different to have somebody come in who's never played before surpass you, as opposed to Soto at the end of next year, which might be another all-star season, which might be another historic season for Soto, to surpass Judge. Both hurt. I get it, but doesn't it make more sense for Soto to get paid more than Judge, than a guy that's never pitched in the major leagues before, automatically passing Cole?
You bring up a great point, but if you're going to go to $300 million for Yamamoto, what the hey? You know what I mean? So he's never pitched in the big leagues. You thought he was worth $300 million, but not $325. So that's where you lose me a little bit. And I just wonder if you're going to be rational about these things. And for those people that automatically go, well, Hal's cheap. He offered more per year to this guy than the Dodgers did. I think the guy wanted to play on the West Coast. Well, he used the Yankees and the Mets.
And I'm sure the Yankees understood that. That's why you didn't want to get too crazy. Yeah, you do it to maybe drive up the price in L.A., but then eventually, if he turns around and says, yeah, I'll take your money, you don't want to offer more money than you think the guy's worth just to be able to get him for the sake of getting him. Sometimes it makes sense to be rational, especially with an unknown commodity. So I think the Yankees knew they were never going to get him.
No, I think they thought they were going to get him.
I think there was a certain point, Michael, where they probably felt like the Dodgers were going to match anything the Yankees offered, and that they were probably going to have to overpay to get him. Is that fair? I think the Mets and the Yankees both were in the running because the feeling was that if push comes to shove, they can offer more money.
But here's the interesting thing. You bring up the Mets, and I think that has to be discussed as well because we talked about this a month ago. If you're Steve Cohen, you don't get Yamamoto. I mean, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So Steve Cohen's one advantage is that he's richer than everybody else, although the Dodgers are pretty darn rich. You got to offer him $400 million then. If you really want the guy, you can't match the Dodger offer. Your advantage is that you could blow anybody out of the water. Go to $400 million. Go to $350 million. We all thought that Steve Cohen was going to be able to buy a championship. He can't get any of the players that he wants. And the players that he gets, he overpays for old pitchers.
Right.
So what has he done, if you're a Met fan, that has shown him flaunting his wealth?
Lindor was probably the only time, right?
And you know what? They overpaid, and I love Lindor.
Right.
I think he's a great player. It was ridiculous to give him $341 million.
But it also could be ridiculous to give Yamamoto $400 million, too. I understand
it's
wanting
ridiculous
somebody.
To give him $325.
But I understand. Yeah, but still, that's $75 million. It's not nothing. I know it's spread over a long period of time, but I can't kill a guy for having some logic to say, all right, I want the guy. I'm willing to overpay for the guy. But am I supposed to go to $400 million for a guy that has never pitched in the major league?
But that's your only advantage. So if you really want him and you think he's worth $325, why don't you go to $350? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but that's their advantage. That's Steve Cohen with his $18 billion, and he has not taken it. And if you're the Mets right now, let's be honest, Don.
Right?
Are they a playoff team right now?
I mean, as long as you see the Diamondbacks do what they did last year, and when you look what you've already established, if you hold on to Alonso all year,
right,
you still need pitching. But could they compete for a playoff spot? Yeah, I wouldn't guarantee it.
Well, you've got the Braves who've gotten much better.
Watch, all of a sudden Sale is going to find the fountain of youth and be healthy.
And you've got the Phillies.
Phillies are very good.
And
the Marlins are, yeah.
The Marlins are okay. And you've got another team that might come out of one of the other divisions for that third wild card. I don't think the Mets are winning the East.
No, definitely not. Here's what I'll say. I'd love to get Peter's opinion on this, too, because it just goes for anything. Anything in life, whether you want a record for your jukebox or a wrestling T-shirt.
Okay.
It's like you really, really want something. So I'm gonna give $400 million. If you're talking to the guy and you're negotiating with his agent, and you know the only way I can get this player to come play here is if I pay through the nose for him. At what point do you say, do I really want him here? If he wants to be a Dodger, and the only way he'll come and play for me is if I pay $75 million more than anybody else was offered, do I really want him? What am I trying to hold him hostage? Am I abducting him? I think at some point, Michael, you say, all right, listen, if you're only here for the money, when does that ever work out?
But didn't it? I mean, the only reason that Scherzer and Verlander came is for the money. He overpaid them. The previous high was $36 million. He went to $43.5.
And if you ask the one thing where he's flaunted his money is to be able to eat the contracts of those guys who didn't work. Right. That's probably the best thing that he did.
And improve your farm system
financially.
By doing it.
Yes, because there's a lot of other owners that wouldn't have done that. But you're talking about guys that were under 3-year contracts. This guy's going to sell, what, a 12-year contract?
10.
A 10-year contract to come play for me. And the only way I can convince you to play here, because you don't want to play here. You'd rather play for the Yankees. If you're going to come all the way to the East Coast, you'd rather play for the Yankees than the Mets. You really want to stay on the West Coast to play for the Dodgers. The only way I can convince you to come here is if I spend $75 million more over those 10 years than everybody else. Do I really want you? Doesn't want to be here and is only here for the money. That would make me a little apprehensive, Peter, that the only way that I can get you is if I grossly overpay for you. And what if you're not happy?
But that is your weapon, though.
It's a weapon.
The money is your weapon.
But
that other teams don't have.
True. But I'll just ask you the question, Michael. I don't want to play for you. But if you're going to pay me that much more money, all right, I'll come play for you. Does that sound like a relationship that's going to work over a decade?
I've seen it happen with players where they didn't want to come somewhere and they got bought out of their reluctance, and it worked out.
And they eventually came to like it.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where they don't like it and they want to get out.
Right.
You know, or they're affected by not being where they want to be. I know it's always about the money, Michael, but I've always gone through this in life. That if the only reason I do something is for money, then I don't know if I should do that. Mm-hmm. There's got to be other reasons besides the money. You got to like what you do.
I guess when you get to that money, what's the difference?
Like, I just relate it to what I do for a living, Michael. I want to do play-by-play in hockey, and I want to do a talk show. And like you joked around when the Kraken came in. It's like, why don't you apply for the Kraken job? And I'm sure there's sports radio in Seattle that I could maybe did a show. But and if they pay me a ridiculous amount of money, like I don't want to go to Seattle. I don't want to be 3,000 miles away from my family, from my mom, in a market I'd never been before. But they're gonna pay me $50,000 more than anybody else, or $100,000 more than anybody else. If that's the only reason I go, well, then am I going to really be happy? Because listen, the money's important, but luckily we're all talking, myself included, where I'm comfortable. Now, obviously, if I'm making no money, any money is you got to make. There are people out there that are making decisions solely for money because they have no money. But we're talking about Major League Baseball players who have money.
They generate money.
So you have the luxury of being able to pick places where you want to live, teams that you want to play for. If you make a decision solely for the money, it's most likely going to be the wrong decision, and it's not going to work out. And if I'm an owner and I have to pay that much more money to convince you to come here, maybe it's better if I just make my team a little bit more attractive to play for, instead of basically having to pay players to come play for me, and it's the only reason that they want to play here.
Now, one quick thing. While we were away, Frankie Montas signed a $16 million deal with the Reds. 1 year. The salary structure in baseball has gone berserk. And I said this when it happened. The guy rehabbed all year, and the Yankees gave him an opportunity to show his wares that he was healthy and pitch that inning in the last game. I wouldn't have done that unless I had a tacit agreement. You're coming back next year. The Yankees got nothing out of this guy. Zero. And then I don't blame the guy and I don't blame the Yankees for not giving him $16 million. But at some point, there should have been some sort of an agreement. If we're going to let you show everybody that you're healthy, you're going to sign with us next year on a make-good contract, and then after that, you can make your million. They didn't, and they lost the guy for nothing. Everything they gave up to the A's for Montas, zero. They got nothing out of it. 16. I thought the Mets overpaid for Severino at $13 million. The Reds are paying $16 million.
That's crazy.
For a guy who can't stay on the mound.
It's 1 year. They're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. It's 1 year.
Crazy.